I think people are going to seeing an increasing need for compliance as AI becomes more adopted, as data silos become more public. These things need to be protected, and so I think if the future workforce is aware of compliance, then they can help implement those frameworks along the way, right? If it's a foundational knowledge for them.
Well, what I think is part of the problem is that compliance can't do the whole job, of course. Um, I think we can all imagine worlds and circumstances in which it's not possible for the administrators of state power to keep up with everything that could happen. As a military man, the old jokes about safety briefs come to mind. The idea that if your commander is telling you not to do something, that means somebody did do it at some point. However, your commander is not as imaginative as Joe, and that causes problems for everybody. And I think the same sort of logic is applicable here. But what I also think is that the same sorts of things apply to AI usage as would have applied in the previous era to the use of human experts. And what I mean is that the hazard is what happens if people are taking the recommendations of anything, machine or person, without fully understanding them. And I think the speed of computers exacerbates that hazard because obviously the machine can behave in ways that will take you some time to catch up with.
It's that speed that if we really do look at the speed differences, I mean, government is historically and perhaps comically slow or behind the times, and that to me, they almost dovetail that with compliance, especially when it comes to litigation or policy or law or whatnot, or legislation. You know, there's always that lag time, and with each, at least in my lifetime, that with each successive new thing what we've seen is that the compliance piece of it just it lags, and it's a pretty significant lag. Probably the most egregious and recent example would be Uber. It took about 20 years for governments to finally catch up to how do I regulate this, tax it, understand it, put the compliances in place. Are these employees? Are these contractors? And in fact, that battle is still going on. So now when we go to AI with its capability and its multiplicity and its speed, you know in real terms and also vectorization of it because effectively looking at something that trends asymptotically towards an impulse more than it does exponential, at least in my personal opinion, because of the how quickly it's being adopted by millions if not billions at this point. So there's definitely some pieces there that are concerning because precedent indicates to me that we're going to be either we're either going to kind of stabilize to becoming a type 1 species or a type 0 species. And by type 0, I mean, lots of bad zeros. And by type 1, it really could, elevate, the general condition of all of us. So,
Really?
there's definitely something to be said about that. We're gonna, I guess I kind of jump between both of them, and then of course the governance piece is a modulator, if you will, between what I'll effectively call 0 and 1 states. So the 0 state being is that this thing we've created is heavily weaponized, in multiple definitions or iterations of the word weaponized, and used as a force of evil effectively versus the force of good that it can be and in some cases already has been, um, especially when it comes to accelerating development, innovation, in a lot of cases making progress for for the species, if you will.